April 22nd, 1971. I remember the date because for the next 8 hours, I didn't think I'd live to see another one. It was meant to be a simple resupply hop over the Annamite foothills, the kind we barely thought about anymore. I swear the rotors were still humming in my bones long after the crash. Sometimes when I'm half asleep, I still hear them. That high, familiar, comforting whine right before everything turned inside out. But back then, that morning in 71, I wasn't thinking about memory or fear or any of that. I was just thinking about coffee I never got to finish, about the smell of damp canvas, about the lazy way the jungle mist curled around the treetops. It looked peaceful. And that's always how it gets you. We were on a routine run. Ammo, rations, the usual palette of stuff the grunts need so they stop yelling at supply. The pilot, Taylor, had a bad habit of humming old country tunes into the intercom, and I'd flick him on and off just to mess with him. The crew was relaxed. Hell, we were all relaxed. The valley below us was a rolling sea of green, quiet in a way that felt almost staged, like the jungle was holding its breath. Then the world exploded. There's no poetry in being shot out of the sky, no slow motion, no heroic soundtrack. It's just metal screaming, fire chewing its way through the cabin, and the sudden violent realization that gravity is a jealous bastard. The first hit tore through our tail like paper. The second hit felt like getting punched by God. I remember shouting something into the intercom, but what came out was just noise. A flash, a breath, the taste of blood, then the free fall. That horrible, weightless second where you stop being a crew chief and you start being a problem for the crash recovery boys. When I woke up, the helicopter wasn't a helicopter anymore. It was a torn open ribcage of metal and smoke, lying crooked on a bed of ferns and mud. My head was ringing. My hands were shaking. I didn't know where the pilot was. I didn't know where the gunner had fallen. All I could hear were insects, thousands of them, buzzing like a broken radio stuck on static. I crawled out of the wreckage, or maybe I fell, hard to tell. Everything was sideways. My leg felt wrong, my shoulder was burning. But the jungle didn't care. It just wrapped itself around me, swallowing the crash site in heat and shadow. "Taylor!" I yelled, or tried to. "Gibson!" The only answer was the jungle breathing. I checked what was left of my gear. Half a canteen, a knife, one flare that looked like it wanted to give up just by being touched, and the radio, my lifeline, my maybe, my prayer with an antenna. I lifted it to my mouth, trying not to notice the blood smeared across the casing. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Echo Bird 17, down near. I looked around. Green, brown, smoke, no landmarks. "Down somewhere south of grid." Static answered, thick enough to taste. I tried again, harder, louder, desperate. Any station. This is Echo Bird 17. I am down, repeat, I am down. I need..." Anxiously, startled. Then, through the static, a crackle. A voice. Young. Too young. I hear you. This is Hummingbird 2. I hear you, I think." I froze. I wasn't hallucinating. Not yet, anyway. The voice came again, trembling like the kid was holding the handset with both hands. Anxiously. "Echo Bird, say again. You're alive, right?" I swallowed. My throat felt like it was full of smoke. With relief, trembling. "Yeah, kid, I'm alive." "Where the hell are you?" Quietly. A pause. Too long. Then, "In the air. I'm looking." Looking. Jesus. The kid sounded like he'd never even been shot at before. And that was the moment it hit me. I wasn't alone after all. Not entirely. Somewhere above that suffocating canopy, somewhere in the vast boiling sky, was a voice. A scared, unsteady voice, but a voice all the same. And that's all a man needs to keep moving. Emotional note. The jungle feels enormous, the survivor feels small, but the first thread of hope appears in the form of a trembling voice. The first thing that struck me about the kid's voice was how thin it sounded. Not weak, just young. Like he hadn't had time yet for the world to rough the edges off it. In the middle of the jungle, covered in smoke and blood, clutching a half-dead radio, I remember thinking, God, they sent me a kid. Echo bird, he said again, softer now, like he didn't want anyone else to hear him. Where exactly are you? I'm trying to get a fix, but I'm kinda new at this. Yeah, I can tell, I muttered, letting myself sit back against a tree. My chest felt tight, my head felt wrong, but sarcasm was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. What's your name, kid? There was a long pause, like he had to think about it. Hendricks. Private First Class Hendricks. Door gunner. Door gunner. Christ. That explained the voice. They pulled gunners from the youngest, fastest, dumbest, or bravest. Sometimes all four. I adjusted the cracked headset on my ear and tried to swallow the metallic taste in my mouth. All right, Hendricks. I'm Staff Sergeant Cole. I'm alive, mostly in one piece. You still up there? He exhaled, and I swear I could hear the rotor thumping faintly through the static. Yeah, but well, it's complicated. Pilot took a round. Co-pilot's trying to keep us level, but we're leaking fuel and… Sir, we can't come to you. Not right now. Figures. The jungle around me creaked like it was shifting its weight. The smell of burned rubber and hot metal from the wreck drifted through the trees. I forced myself to focus. Okay, you can't get to me, but you can hear me. That's already better than where I was 5 minutes ago. A swallow on his end. Sir, I've never talked someone out before. I let out a humorless laugh. Relax, kid. I've never been talked out before. First time for everything. That got a tiny, thin chuckle out of him. It was enough to keep me conscious. I scanned the jungle, trying to make sense of the mess. Listen, I need you to help me figure where the hell I am. I see a ridgeline to the east, tall and sharp, and there's a stream, maybe 50 meters behind me. Sounds slow, muddy. The radio crackled as he repeated the details under his breath, probably checking a map he barely knew how to read. Okay, that narrows it. I think you're near grid Tango 5, but I can't overfly it. NVA's thick down there, real thick. My stomach tightened. How thick? He hesitated, too long. To be honest, sir, we saw movement, a lot of it. They're hunting for the crash. My fingers clenched around the radio. The sweat on my palms turned cold. Then you need to guide me, right now. Anything moving near me. Static. Then. Yes, to your left. Slow movement. 10 o'clock. I froze. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. No wind. Nothing that should have been making branches shift. Hendricks, what am I looking at? Can't see details. Just 2, maybe 3 shadows. They're spreading out. My pulse hammered against my skull. I can't move fast, kid. My leg's messed up. He exhaled shakily, thinking hard. Okay, listen. There's a ditch, a washout, about 20 yards behind you. I saw the break in the canopy. If you slide down and stay low, they might walk past. 20 yards, huh? That's a marathon right now. I'll talk you through it, step by step. Just keep talking to me, sir. Please. I took a breath so deep it hurt, grabbed the nearest tree trunk and pulled myself up. All right, Hendricks. Don't you go anywhere. The kid laughed nervously. Sir, I'm in a helicopter with 1 pilot unconscious and 1 engine coughing. I don't think I can go anywhere. I started limping toward the ditch, every footstep louder than it should have been. Just keep your eyes on me, kid. I'm here, sir. I won't let you disappear. The jungle didn't feel like a place anymore. It felt like a throat closing around me, roots clutching at my boots, vines dragging across my face. Every breath tasted like wet earth and fear. And through all of it, that voice, thin, static-scratched, too young to be carrying this much weight. Hummingbird too. "You still with me, Chief?" he asked. I swallowed hard, my throat raw. "Yeah, I'm here. I'm moving." I wasn't moving well. Every inch felt like pushing through wet cement. My ribs screamed with every breath. My left leg trembled when I put weight on it. But I kept the handset pressed against my cheek like it was the last warm thing left in the world. "Okay," he said, and I could hear him breathing fast, like he didn't want me to know he was scared. "You're gonna angle left, maybe 20 degrees. You'll hit a little ravine. Take it down. It'll hide you from the ridge." "You sure?" "No," he whispered, "but it's the best guess I've got." I dragged myself forward, sliding on mud, pushing aside ferns as tall as my shoulders. The air felt hot enough to melt my teeth. Flies gathered around the blood drying on my temple. "I hear movement," I whispered. "Down slope." He didn't answer for half a second too long. "Drop, Chief, get low, real low." I didn't argue. I sank into a bed of elephant grass, spreading out on my belly like I was trying to disappear into the soil. And then I saw them. Sandals, 3 pairs, moving slow and careful. AK barrels cutting the air above me. They were close enough that I could smell them, that sharp metallic scent of sweat mixed with gun oil. "Don't breathe loud," the boy murmured. "Don't even blink unless you have to." My heartbeat felt like it was trying to punch out of my chest. I counted the footsteps. 3 men, maybe 4. They walked right past where I lay, one of them brushing a blade of grass against my cheek as he moved. Then silence. Then the sound of them fading into the jungle. "They're gone," I whispered. "Good, good," he said, his voice cracking. You did great. Real great." It was strange. The kid was miles in the sky, maybe orbiting on fumes, and he was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. When your world shrinks down to dirt, breath, and the next 10 feet, a voice can feel like a hand holding yours. "Why are you doing this?" I finally asked him. He hesitated. "Because no one else is answering you. And I don't want you to die alone out there." Something in my chest tightened. Not pain. Something human. He guided me down the ravine. I slid more than climbed, mud covering my arms and chest. The air cooled slightly as the walls closed in around me like a damp hallway. "Okay, Chief," he said. "You'll follow that ravine, 2, maybe 300 yards. There's a bend. Stay in the shadows. The NVA got dogs near the riverline. Don't let them wind you." I froze mid-step. "Dogs?" "Yeah. But as long as you keep to the mud and don't panic, you'll be fine." Don't panic. Right. I pressed forward, sliding beneath exposed roots thicker than my arm, each step taking me deeper into a green world that swallowed sound. Once I thought I heard a helicopter, the low chop of rotors. I lifted my head, hope surging, but it faded. Miles away, maybe heading somewhere safe. Somewhere I wasn't. Sadly, with a small smile. "Still with me?" he asked. Quietly, honest. "Yeah, but only because you keep talking." Thoughtfully, almost warm. "Then I won't shut up." And he didn't. His voice became a rope I held onto in a jungle that didn't care if I lived or died. Every whisper guiding me through the green maze felt like a lifeline thrown from heaven. Or maybe from some kid who was just as lost as I was, but refused to let go. Emotional note, fragile trust forming under fear. Night wasn't a relief. It was a punishment. The jungle closed in tighter. The air turned colder, and every sound, every snapped twig, every shifting leaf felt like it was aimed at me. The sun had dropped behind the ridgeline maybe an hour earlier, though I couldn't see it. I only felt the temperature shift on my skin. That, and the way the darkness swallowed the world whole. The radio hissed at my hip like a living thing. "Chief, you picking up?" I pressed the battered handset against my ear. "Still here." "Good. Listen, there's chatter on their set. They know somebody survived the shoot-down." The words hit me harder than the crash did. How many?" He sucked in a breath across the static. Don't know, but they've got dogs and a radio team of their own. Your ridge, your whole side of the valley's getting a sweep. I closed my eyes, felt the world tilt beneath me. Dogs meant scent. Scent meant time running out. All right, just keep talking. Tell me where to go. I tried to sound calm. I didn't succeed. He guided me through a stand of moonlit bamboo. The wind rattled the stalks together with a hollow clacking that made my skin crawl. I crouched low, moving inch by inch, the jungle floor cold under my palms. Then I saw it. A flicker. A thin, dancing beam of white light threading between the trees. Flashlight, 10 yards, moving slow, I hissed. His answer came fast. Freeze! Don't breathe unless you have to. I slid down onto my stomach, pressing my face into the damp leaves. My ribs screamed. Sweat stung the cut above my eye. Boots crunched closer, closer, closer. The beam passed over my leg, paused, then lifted away again. The scout exhaled softly. I heard him mutter something. Then he moved on. I didn't breathe for 10 full seconds. Then, with relief, trembling, he's gone. Almost shakily smiling. Yeah. I heard him leave your mic range. You're doing fine, Chief. Real fine. 10 minutes later, the jungle opened into a narrow ravine, and at the bottom of it I heard the faint sound of trickling water. What now? He hesitated. I could hear him flipping maps or papers, hands fumbling. Get in the water. Waist deep if you can. It'll mess with the dogs. I eased myself down the bank, boots sliding. The water was ice cold and black as ink. When I stepped into it, the shock almost made me cry out. Easy, Chief, he murmured. Follow the stream northeast. It bends toward the river. They'll lose your trail if you stay low. I moved slow, trying not to splash. The current tugged at my legs. My fingers brushed against smooth stones, roots, drifting leaves. Somewhere above the canopy, I imagined him circling, gripping a radio that wasn't meant for guiding anyone through hell. Just a kid trying to sound like he wasn't terrified for both of us. Then the truth slipped out. Chief, I gotta tell you something. I froze mid-step. What? Fuel. I'm down to the danger line. We weren't supposed to stay out this long. My stomach dropped. How long you got? Maybe 40 minutes if I stretch it. Maybe less. 40 minutes. I'd barely made 40 yards. Then you need to go back, kid. You did enough. He cut me off. Don't say that. Don't. I'm not leaving you down there. Not in the dark. Not with them closing in. His breathing shook. The radio hissed between us. I don't want you dying alone out there, he whispered. You hear me? Not alone. Something inside me, something I didn't know was still alive, tightened. A line formed between us in the darkness. Not sight, not hands, just two voices fighting the night. All right, kid. Then let's keep moving. And in the cold, waist-deep water under enemy searchlights, I did. One step, then another, his voice guiding me like a lone star behind a wall of clouds. The stream curved east, turning shallow as the canopy thinned. Moonlight pooled on the water like pale oil, just bright enough for me to see the mud swirling around my knees. My legs shook from exhaustion. My ribs burned with every breath. But I kept moving, because his voice, thin, strained, fraying at the edges, kept dragging me forward. Chief, you still with me? Yeah, kid, I'm here. Good, keep that bearing. You're doing fine. He wasn't convincing either of us. The pitch of the Huey's engine had changed. Even through the static, I could hear it. Lower, uneven, like a heart skipping beats. Your pilot holding up?
Silence for half a second too long. Then, "He's out cold again. I strapped him in so he doesn't roll out. I'm flying her best I can." I gripped a vine, pulled myself up a slick embankment. My hand came away muddy and shaking. "Kid, how old are you, really?" He hesitated. 19. 19. A boy. A boy trying to sound like a man while his world literally spun beneath him. "All right, 19's enough. Just stay with me." "Copy. Always." Then I heard it. A distant pop, pop, pop. Sharp, mechanical, cutting through the trees. Gunfire. Not mine. His. The radio cracked violently. "Chief! Taking rounds on the tail! Jesus!" A deafening metallic rip tore across the channel. Then a scream. Raw. Instinctive. The kind that doesn't come from fear. Only pain. "Kid! Kid! Talk to me!" Only the sound of rotor blades staggering, chopping unevenly through air. A thud. A gasp. "Chief!" His voice was so faint it felt miles away. "They found me. I gotta pull away. Climb or something." The engine whined higher, too high. He was over-torquing it, trying to lift out of danger and losing control. "Listen to me. Ease off. Don't fight it. Just breathe and—" Then, a roar, a violent jolt of static, and silence.
The kind of silence you feel in your bones. I pressed the handset so hard against my ear it hurt. "Kid! Kid, answer me!" Nothing. Not even static now. Just empty, dead air. No. 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 The jungle leaned in around me. Branches creaked. Water trickled behind me. Somewhere far off, a dog barked twice. I was alone again. Alone in the dark, in enemy territory, bleeding and shaking with no sense of direction except the ache in my legs. Move. Just move. I crawled up a root-choked slope, my breath ragged. I stumbled through a patch of tall reeds, hearing the whisper of movement behind me. Soft, coordinated. Not animals. Men. They were close. Too close. I limped through a clearing, heart slamming against my ribs. My vision blurred. The world pitched sideways. I leaned against a tree trunk, sliding halfway down it as footsteps pressed through the brush. They were speaking quietly. Vietnamese. Calm. Patient. Hunters. I clutched my useless radio and whispered into it anyway. "Kid, if you're out there, I need you." But no answer came. Branches snapped behind me, fast. I ran. Or tried to. My knees buckled. I crawled, using my elbows, dragging myself through wet leaves as shapes emerged from the tree line. A flashlight beam sliced across my back. They were right on top of me. I pressed myself into the dirt and braced for the end. Then, a thunderous thump shook the valley. Then another. Rotor wash. But not his. A flare burst overhead, bleaching the jungle white. Shadows scattered like ghosts. I heard an American voice yelling, boots pounding, rifles cocking. A rescue team. My rescue team. Hands grabbed my shoulders and dragged me behind a fallen log as gunfire erupted across the clearing. "Got you, buddy. We got you." I didn't know who said it. I didn't care. The last thing I remember before blacking out was the flare burning above us and the distant, fading memory of a 19-year-old voice whispering through static. "I don't want you dying alone out there." I didn't go near the memorial for years, decades really. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't sure I could stand there and face the truth of what that wall really meant for me. It wasn't just names carved into stone. It was voices. Voices I still heard if I let myself get quiet enough. Especially his. It was a cold spring morning when I finally went. The kind where the air is crisp enough to sting your lungs a little on the inhale. The crowd around the Vietnam Memorial was scattered, moving with that respectful silence people use when they feel like they're walking through someone else's memories. I stopped near the center section and let my eyes travel the rows of letters. There were so many. Too many. But I wasn't looking for a friend. I wasn't looking for a crewmate. I wasn't even looking for someone I had ever laid eyes on. I was searching for a voice. A 19-year-old voice that once held me together with nothing but courage and static. It took me 20 minutes to find him. His name wasn't dramatic. In fact, it was the kind that gets lost between more decorated lines. Simple. Plain. Almost easy to overlook unless you knew what you were searching for. SPC. David R. Hollis. 19 years old. Crew. UH-1H. KIA. April 14th, 1971. That date hit me. But the wall did. He didn't make it home. He didn't make it out of the sky at all. My throat tightened. I pulled a small object from my pocket, a little plastic radio handset I'd kept on my desk for years. A replica, not the real thing, but it felt right. I laid it down at the base of the wall, beneath his name. "This should have been yours, kid," I murmured. "Not mine." A couple nearby glanced over but didn't linger. Everyone talks to the wall eventually. I stayed there, kneeling, hand still resting on the carved letters. Not praying, not talking. Just remembering. The strange thing is, I never knew his face. I didn't know the color of his eyes. Never saw the way he smiled, or if he did that little nervous head scratch young soldiers do when they're scared. All I had was a voice. A scared, stubborn, determined voice humming through a dying radio, while an entire jungle tried to swallow me whole. And yet, when I think of the people who saved my life, he's the first one I see in my mind. Or rather, the first one I hear. Some bonds in war are built on blood, sweat, and shared misery. But some are built on nothing more than sound waves bouncing between two people who refuse to give up on each other. I stood after a long while, knees aching, back stiff. Age does that. But there was something lighter in my chest. Not peace exactly, but a kind of acceptance. Before leaving, I pressed my hand one last time against the stone. "Thank you, David. I made it because of you." I took a step back. The wall reflected my face, older, lined, worn. Next to his name, two people who never met. One alive because the other wasn't afraid to care. And as I walked away, I heard it one last time, soft as breath carried on memory. "I don't want you dying alone out there." If you've made it this far, thank you. These stories take time to tell, and even longer to understand. You've just walked through the memories of men who were never supposed to be remembered. If their voices meant something to you, if even one line stayed behind when the sound faded, don't let it disappear. Give this video a like, share it with someone who still believes history belongs to the living, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next story. Every episode here is another page, another life, another truth pulled out of the smoke. Drop a comment too. Not for the algorithm, but for the conversation. Tell me what you felt, or what you remember hearing from your own fathers, grandfathers, uncles, or friends. That's how these memories stay alive. Subscribe, stay with us, and let's keep turning the pages together.